Welcome to another live stream. Organized stalking, forced silence. One of the dilemmas that all targeted individuals deal with is the framework of harassment. The techniques that are used on targeted individuals are not only unexpectedly scientific in a way that a lot of people will underestimate, but everything involved in the methodology of discrediting someone with covert stalking and harassment, it's a chain reaction. It's a domino effect, and we talked about that in the last live stream. That everything complements the agenda of discrediting someone, of gaslighting them, of isolating them, of provoking them, of reprogramming them. And you wouldn't think it just by looking at what's happening. It's kind of like, I don't know, maybe some type of parasite that infects someone, and they don't know. They don't even know that it's there. And then they start to experience the symptoms. And it's a lot like that with gang stalking, with organized stalking and harassment, because before you know what's happening, before you even have any idea what you're in for, that infection, that invasion has begun. And you're set up. And not just in a way where these people, may have gotten information about you or have maybe, done a deep dive into your history or been, watching you through, cameras or, hacking your phone or whatever they're going to do. At least some of these people are just creepy. Not only that, but the fact that the framework for this whole thing, and I've talked about that, there are isolated, targets out there who are dealing with things that are very specific, maybe to their geographical location. Maybe there's a specific agenda involved, but there are targets out there, and I know there's a lot of you who are listening will agree that it doesn't even seem possible for you to explain how all these things are happening to you suddenly. Now, sometimes it's gradual, and there's a lot of targets out there who talk about, the thinking back and of course that happens, I think, to all targets. Maybe not. But usually there's a sudden change. And the setup is you don't know what's really going on. And the fact that there is a framework, the fact that people can be manipulated very easily, turns the world, the environment into a nightmare, right, for the targeted individual. And I've mentioned before that some of these things are illusions, and some of them are done, technologically. I guess if you want to be specific, you have the V2K, you have electronic harassment, and so on and so forth. But I think the spiritual dimension uses that stuff as well. And I've mentioned that I think those things were given to humans. And even when you get into Hitler and some of the stuff that those guys were messing around with, and then you had Operation Paperclip, and they came over and we got all this information, all these, little secrets. And it's not a coincidence. A lot of this stuff happened, right after all that. And I think to me, it's obvious that there's a huge spiritual connection, not only in how people are manipulated and sometimes become involved. Like I said, there are programs, stuff like that, but as to how this stuff is happening. And, we've gone through, the symptom list that targets deal with. And, you have everything from voices to, magnetic field, sudden drowsiness to the point where target individuals, they may just have to go like lay down and fall asleep. They may be driving. They may be, trying to work. Things like that happen, or they'll become anxious, or their mood will suddenly shift. And it's not natural. It's not something you can really explain. And it can also happen to the people around the targeted individual. And I've mentioned too that, not only can the technology or the spiritual dimension, manipulate you into feeling a certain way or having, certain symptoms or whatever. A lot of targets, some of the stuff I can't even repeat, that's been happening to them, because and that's really the point, is that a lot of this stuff, you can't even say anything. And it is a type of forced silence. And it's set up to be embarrassing. It is set up to be, shameful. It is set up with a game dynamic to affect the ego of the targeted individual, like it's some kind of contest or whatever. And I dealt with a lot of that, and there's other targets that, they've some of the street theater or the directed conversations involve, things that, are suggestive or even just outright, communication. Most of the stuff that I've dealt with, was, especially in the beginning, was just, they weren't even trying to hide it. That wasn't working. The subtle stuff, I just didn't care. I've heard that with other targets too. It's like, oh yeah, I was just just watching that movie last night. And they're just shaking their head like, you don't get it. We're trying to let you know that you're being watched or whatever, but you just think that, okay. And so then they'll get aggressive. And the only problem at that point, it kills the gaslighting. And I've mentioned that before, that the last thing you want to do is react, because you want them to get as obvious and aggressive as possible, because this stuff is intense. And it makes, I think, anyone who's subjected to the heavy stuff question their perception, question reality itself, because they are unaware of where they are, who they are dealing with, and the science that is used to take people into that labyrinth of manipulation and psychological warfare. Okay. But as I said before, all these things complement. And so as soon as the target, is attacked, they've already triggered a lot of things in the mind of the victim. We've talked about the sensitization. We've talked about the fight and the flight mode. You're afraid for your life. You're isolated. And then you add all those other things in, and that's beyond what a lot of people can deal with. That's a whole lot to have on your plate. And then you have the infiltrators, and you have the environmental tyranny, where these people are provoking you, or maybe trying to infiltrate, or asking little key questions to draw you out. And then you move into that other domino of discrediting the victim, where they just look like they're having a delusion of grandeur, a persecutory delusion. They're hallucinating. They're just overreacting. And as soon as that happens, it's pretty much over. As far as, a lot of targets will talk about moving, or they'll talk about, trying to, preserve their reputation within their family or social circle. But once that stuff starts to happen, you have the perps, and then you have the people that have no idea what's going on. And, people start talking. They turn you into a scapegoat. Persona non grata, excommunicado. And then you have to start over and hope that that no one finds out, because even though it's true, those two groups of individuals that I just mentioned are pretty unsympathetic. Obviously, the perps, they're just going to laugh. They're going to play into that whole thing, and the people don't know about it. that violates their conceptual framework to the point where if they believed you, they'd probably go crazy. Okay, or they would at least live in a framework of affliction and fear and uncertainty, just like all targets are dealing with. But the things that they do to you, for a lot of people, would be unexplainable or unmentionable. And I've seen that some of the stuff out there with the directed conversations is just it's very clever. And I've mentioned before, you have to have very strict criteria because it's so easy, and you have to realize that as a target, it's so easy to start processing information in a personal way that you can start reading into everything. And if you notice that you're paying attention to all that stuff, because I think all targets do in the beginning, that's when you got to put on the noise canceling headphones. That's when you got to realize that you're being manipulated and you've been infected with the science of this mechanism that targets are exposed to. And when you're trying to deal with that, there's only so many options. Thank God for the targeted individual community. Okay. And it's great to have affirmation. It's great to see people getting together and acting like adults. And I think I've created a fairly safe environment here as best I could. I've tried to create rules. By the way, we're going to have a guest in, hopefully, and I'll put that link in here sometime in the future, where people obey the rules, no swearing, no promoting any other religions but Christianity, no medical advice, and no mentioning other channels or names. And you got to turn off your camera. But that's controversial to a lot of people. But it goes right along with what I'm talking about, because people getting on a worldwide platform, showing their face with their actual name, talking about things that both of those groups will take advantage of it's not a good idea, at the very least. At least I've heard a lot of that from targets, that they wish they could start over and not say a damn thing. Okay, not say a word, right? Because it's always the same. That's not possible. Or you're dealing with the perps who are going to manipulate you and just use it to discredit you. And some of the techniques are unorthodox. It's not just directed conversations. It's not just the break-ins where they move stuff around in your house and pour the conditioner into the shampoo bottle and switch it around. Sometimes it's pretty serious stuff. Food tampering, people get sick. You get covert poisoning and drugging. And sometimes it's going on for a while before you even know it. And then the direct conversations start mentioning things. And I personally dealt with an incident that supposedly, at least that's what the individual told me, is that because they wanted to, because a lot of times targets will deal with things and they'll say, we're going to do something to you, or we're going to get you, or we're going to kill you, or we're going to give you cancer, or, we're going to do something, right? We're going to have you committed to a mental institution. That's one of the popular themes. But they started out right away with me that they were going to give me cancer and all this stuff. And so it was pretty aggressive. And I knew that this individual and I've mentioned this little story before, so I'm not going to tell it, was basically messing with my mind. But really, those things started to happen. I had an individual come up into my house and ask to look in my refrigerator. And I was like, why? That's kind of weird. It's like, what do you want something? I'll get it for you. And now I just want to look. And then he starts going off on all the things that can be done to the condiments and the food and the milk and everything, and what kind of little, cocktails can be used, and petroleum products and synergistic poisons and stuff you can lace light bulbs with, and oven burners and all these things. And I'm thinking, well, I know this guy's trying to scare me. And I didn't think anything like that was possible. I didn't think people would, I said, this guy's he's got some kind of a complex and he wants to be a victimizer. I didn't even know about gang stalking. I knew about the occult. I knew about some of the upper echelon and the secret societies. I was exposed to some of those things, but I didn't know about this. I didn't know about the organized harassment. And then later, as I did the predictable thing, I didn't say anything to anyone. That's the only thing I did right. But I did go on the run. I moved. I figured I could get away, and these people just kept following me. We talked about that on several live streams. Sometimes they circle your house or run around your house, or it's more aggressive than just constantly running into them, in all the different geographic locations where they shouldn't be. It was like they would literally just show up at my house, and there was no getting away. And so I tried to, to make peace and be a good Christian and so on and so forth. And I think God honored those things because He kept me alive. I shouldn't even be here. And I just like to thank the Lord for that. And I know there's a lot of you guys out there, and I've talked about that you need God, and you need Him more than you ever needed Him dealing with this. But that individual, he just wouldn't leave me alone. And the funny thing is, I could have probably killed him with my bare hands. I used to lift a lot of weights, and I did martial arts and wrestled for 15 years. So I wasn't physically scared of him. But, with the things that happen with targets, it's like it's not about that. And a lot of targets will talk about that too. And it's frustrating because people will say, well, you should have just, kicked some ass or, done something. But you're not just dealing with one person. You're not just dealing with even just a little group of individuals, or maybe even just the community that you're in. It's bigger than that for a lot of targets, and they might not see it for a while. They might not even know what they're dealing with, but you figure it out awful fast, depending on how aggressive it is. And this guy crossed the line finally, and he knew. He knew what I was about to do to him, and so he backed off. I'm not going to mess with you anymore. Somebody paid me a lot of money to drive you crazy. And I asked him about the food tampering, and he said, well, that was Epicac because I'd been throwing up a lot, but there was other things going on too. So the point I'm making is that there's a lot of little games, and they use the suggestion, they use the stimuli. There's all kinds of weird stuff. In fact, I was talking to a target a while ago, and his theory is that some of the people that think they're getting cooked with directed energy weapons are just dealing with things that they put on maybe the clothing or something like that the target is going to touch, or something they're going to touch with their hands, and then they itch their face or something, and then it starts to burn, and then they use the directed conversation of we're going to cook your face or whatever it is that they try to suggest, and they mingle all these things together and then create that illusion. But there's a lot of things that, like I said, as far as the method of gang stalking, of organized stalking and harassment, is that they'll just do strange things that make you afraid to even say anything. And if you do say anything, of course, like I said, that final domino is your credibility. And then they can just really harass the target. Once everybody just thinks you're nuts, nobody will hear you scream. It's like that serial killer that takes someone out in the middle of nowhere. Scream all you want. No one will hear you. And for targets, it's very similar because the forced silence, because of the unorthodox techniques, because of the obfuscation and plausible deniability created through the mechanism of harassment sensitization, creating associations, invading the mind of the victim, setting them up, using disinformation and smear campaigns within their community and within their social circle to create a labyrinth, a type of prison without walls for the targeted individual. I'm going to go ahead and drop a link. And hopefully everyone is behaving out there. I haven't been paying attention. And hopefully we'll be able to get this link in here. Why are we having problems? Okay, hopefully that'll work. Okay. And let's see what's out here. Kentia, welcome to the live stream. David Dotson, welcome. Okay. All right. And we've got somebody out here who is an unbeliever, really? Oh, that's unfortunate. Or maybe just a perp. I don't know. You just don't know. Hopefully, the rest of you are doing well this evening. Moving into the weekend, warmer weather than I remember this time of year. Of course, there's a lot of conspiracies about that. How's all that stuff working? I mean, I don't even want to go into it because I don't want to. I want this to be about things that targets can get together and discuss concerning that. I could talk about a lot of things. I could talk about chemtrails. I could talk about other types of things that I think would probably be a little questionable. But we're going to stick to this. We're going to stick to the main theme. Okay. Okay. I'm looking for a comment out here. It looks like you guys are just in a dialogue, and I don't know how to jump into that. I haven't gone to the bottom again. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like a whole lot of people that are out there are interacting. Just two. Oh, we have Michael Chastain. Welcome. Okay. No one out there wants to come in, huh? I have to get something for my throat here. Oh my goodness! I should have gargled before, and I mentioned before I do have a throat nodule. It's been acting up, but we're gonna try and do it. That's why I haven't been coming on so much, guys. And my throat is just killing me. But hopefully, someone will be brave and come in. What about you, Michael Chastain? Would you like to come in and share your experience either with gang stalking or maybe something that makes you feel that you've been forced into silent mode? I think all targets deal with that. Like I said, I've talked about this before. I'm very reluctant to do this channel to begin with, and sometimes I regret it. I've come so close to deleting it, and for those of you who've been following me from the beginning of this in 2020, in 2021, I erased over 350 videos. I just deleted them, and I don't want to go into why, but it was pretty bad. Well, a lot of people wonder if we get harassed as content creators doing this, and I don't know about everyone, but I know a lot of them do. And it's not just by the trolls and the perps; it's other things. And the environmental tyranny that is around the target is they get attacked, and the personal information is thrown at them. They're dealing with gaslighting. They're dealing with the smear campaign and everything. And so it's not uncommon for people like me to get comments. I had comments from people about the channel who I've never said anything to. One of the guys that I've known for a long time finally came out. He knew about the channel. I never told anyone. Never told a soul. Not one. Mm-mm. And that's advice that I can give anyone as a target, is that you want to try to be as tight-lipped about this stuff as possible, because they will give themselves away. If you're worried about an infiltrator, I hate it when it's like I'll meet somebody. It's like, you promise not to treat me bad. It's like, well, if I was a stalker, I probably wouldn't care. Of course, I'm going to tell you that you can trust me. It's like a con artist or something. It's really that ridiculous. Um, and that's how you can see some of the perps in the community. It's like they'll start accusing each other. What's okay? You got me. It's like, what are they going to do? Admit it? Some of these people will. Are you a gang stalker? And it's like, really? Like they're going to tell you. They're not going to tell you. And the problem of that type of infiltration is something targeted individuals deal with exponentially, because you get into that place where you don't know who you can trust. Not only are you being silenced, but you're in a place where you have to watch your back constantly. I mean, there's things out there in the world that I think everybody has to deal with. There's a lot more of it now. I mean, I can't imagine. I remember growing up in the 70s, and we didn't worry about school shootings. We didn't have cops and stuff. We didn't have locked doors at all schools. I deliver food to schools, on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, and you can't even get in. They have them all locked. Who would have thought that all this crazy stuff could even happen? And now we've got the stuff that's going on in the Middle East, and that's biblical prophecy, guys. You know what? In Ezekiel 38, God is going to put a hook in the jaw of the nations. You know what that hook is, in my opinion? And I could be wrong. It's oil. It's oil. They closed the Strait of Hormuz, whatever, the Persian Gulf. It's always the same. And you got 20% of the world's oil supply going through. Not only that, but now Russia is selling oil to India. People are trying to move away from the petrodollar. The world debt is over $315 trillion. We're approaching 40 trillion, just the West. And then we have this huge spike in gold prices, which is ridiculous. Will they revalue gold? How else are they going to take down the GDP to debt ratio? And if they do that, then they'll dump the gold. This is obviously hypothetical, and then disperse the petrodollar debt throughout the world with stablecoin and Bitcoin. Notice the seesaw with Bitcoin and gold, right? And by the way, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. But we have all kinds of weird things going on, and that's biblical prophecy fulfilled right there. And that cosmic geography around the Middle East, around Israel, the burdensome stone that everybody's going to try and cast away and heave away, the cup of trembling. It's all here, and I've already talked about that in 1948 you had that fulfillment of what the prophet Jeremiah told everyone, that they would have a future and a hope, and they would be regathered again, scattered throughout the world, but that they had a future and a hope, and now they are back. A lot of people don't understand. They say, well, that's not really the Jews, that's the Zionists. There are Jews over there, but there's three different groups. There's the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. And I've talked about those things before. And so when people get all, caught up in all the anti-Semitism and all that's out there, not all of those people that were in Israel were really true Jews either, right? And that's why Jesus said, you guys are vipers, the synagogue of Satan, and so on and so forth, because they were the Pharisees. They were actually the beginning of the Antichrist, literally. And I'm not going to go into all that, but all this stuff is surrounding everyone. And the strange thing is nobody is recognizing it. I mean, this stuff could really light off. We could be in a world war. And there's the looming possibility of another pandemic. I've talked about that, where you have the mutation to the 224, the 226 position for the avian flu, for the bird flu, and it'll go pandemic human. I hope it doesn't. But what's the directed conversation for everybody out there in the world? We're going to have another one, theoretically, hypothetically, COVID was a run through for something worse. That's speculation. And people just forget. La la la. They don't want to remember the store shelves being empty. People fighting over toilet paper and chicken soup. It's like it never happened. We are surrounded by people with ridiculous cognitive dissonance and short-term memory issues from God knows what, along with attention deficit disorder. And we're all, theoretically being, I don't know, saturated with all this, 5G and all this other stuff. And some people are saying it's dangerous. I don't know if it is or not. But is there a connection? We don't know. And then there's speculation as to the other things that are going on with that, where people are being turned into, a passive RFID chips. And, people talk about implants as targeted individuals. People talk, about, the different types of DNA resonance frequencies. And I don't know. But there's so much manipulation out there that anything could happen. And with the volatility that's out there now, I don't know, maybe if there's something good that can come out of it. Hopefully God will do that. Maybe they'll forget about us for a while. We've got 55 people out there. There's got to be someone who wants to come in. I'm going to drop the link again. Unless that link is not working. And let me look at the comments. Okay. Let's see here. And EE says that he thinks that, or she, I have no idea, but they track DNA frequencies. I don't know. That'd be kind of hard to do, but who knows? You never know. The technology would surprise you. Like I said, back, when I was growing up, we never would have thought that any of this stuff would be possible. It was all, Star Trek and Star Wars and everything. And now, all that stuff is like literally a possibility. Well, at least, not all that, but of course, that's part of the delusion I've talked about before, where the elites, this is like their golden age, and we're going to, I don't know, take a pilgrimage into the galaxy like Star Wars and, go to Mars with Elon Musk and everything. I don't believe that. I don't think it's ever going to happen, nor is it a good idea. But at the very least, we are very scientifically advanced now. And who knows what they're up to. Someone said mic is not working. My mic is, right? It appears to be working just fine. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking for a comment here. Tom, welcome to the live stream. David Dodson says grocery stocking. Hilarious. They do like that kind of stuff, though, don't they? I noticed that it was, because it creates that surreal effect around the targeted individual, because what they want is for you to be so paranoid that you start, looking for this stuff everywhere, and then they want you to come to conclusions that are wrong, and then they just want to vex you And a lot of targets, they just, they basically become hermits. And I don't, sometimes that's what you got to do. But they'll use those techniques to accomplish it. They'll harass the target in traffic. They'll harass the target in where they live in their neighborhood. They will harass the target at grocery stores, at fast food places, at restaurants, whatever. And I remember dealing with stuff like that. It was just creepy. When people walk by you and they say something to you. It's like, wow, that that was obvious, man. They, like I said, for me, they had to really be obvious. Okay, well, 56 people and no one wants to come in. You got to be kidding me. Help me out here. Someone must have something to share. I mean, everyone used to tell me to drop a link, and then I do it, and they just go away. They go away. What are you gonna do? Okay, well, I'm looking at comments again. Let's see here. And Tom says there is a handbook for community policing and domestic espionage. There's got to be. They've got all kinds of playbooks, don't they? I mean, I almost wonder if some of them study my material just so they can, perfect their methods or something they might have missed. That's what I worry about. I try not to give too much of that stuff away. And even when it comes to some of the very scary forms of gaslighting that targets deal with, and I've mentioned the covert synergistic poisoning before, and that stuff. I mean, you really want to gaslight someone, you do something like that, you know. And for people who do not know what that is, synergistic cocktail type, drugging or poisoning involves using multiple chemicals mixed together to create an effect. They could literally put something in the food at a barbecue. Maybe we'll just hypothetically say that, you're dealing with some type of campaign where these people are, targeting you and they want to gaslight you and drive you crazy. And so you're dealing with all this other stuff, and you're dealing with directed conversations about poisoning and whatever, who knows, cancer or whatever you're going to deal with, whatever they're messing with you. And then, as always, they'll flip it. So first you'll be, it's like the people that they want you to go camping or whatever, and they're nice and everything's normal. And then as soon as you get 50 miles out in the middle of nowhere, they flip. They start, doing the stuff, hacking, whistling, using all the stuff that they weren't doing before, or whatever they're doing, direct conversations. And you're pretty much screwed because, you're out in the middle of nowhere. Horrifying. But the synergistic poisoning is similar, but it's very effective to gaslight someone. Or they could just put something, maybe in the hygiene product of the targeted individual or in their food that was harmless by itself. But as soon as their habitual lifestyle would kick in, maybe they're drinking energy drinks, or maybe they're smoking cigarettes, a whole cocktail of chemicals of cigarettes. I had that one happen. And I even had one of them admit it. So the good news is I quit smoking. But what happens is you mix those chemicals together and you can have all kinds of nasty effects. Heart palpitations, burning skin, all kinds of weird, effects. But the thing is that the delusion that is created around that type of harassment, we'll use the cigarettes, for example, right? Somebody does something like that to the target. They might, start, breaking in and, getting into their carton or, maybe a pack that's like they tear the corner or something, make it look like it's tampered with, And then, all the while, it really has nothing to do with that. It was something that they introduced to the target, maybe through a drink, or maybe they did something else, put it in a hygiene product or whatever. And so then the directed conversations that, it's in the cigarettes. Yeah, they're poisoning the cigarettes, and so then the targets say, I got it now. I got evidence, and so they run wherever to the hospital to the cops or something with this cigarettes, and these are poison, and they're going, oh, really, why? And of course you get through that. So they will say they tested. Of course, they're not going to find anything. They're not going to find anything, right? And that's the clever uh, method of that type of synergistic poisoning. And the individual at the barbecue is this. We'll say the directed conversation startup and everything, and then they started. They eat the food that's got the other chemical in it. None of the people that are there that are eating it are going to be affected because by itself it's harmless. They might do it in a weird family scenario too, depending on what you're dealing with as a target. And you say anything, you're just gonna look nuts. What do you mean? You went and got that food off the barbecue table just like everybody else. What are you, nuts? And of course, the people that don't know about it, they're going to believe it. The people that are in on it, they're going to be tickled because they know that they've won at that point. They've discredited the target. Now the target's going to start wondering if they're crazy. This stuff is not to be underestimated. A lot of very sophisticated methods, and it seems primitive. It just seems like there's just real ridiculous chain yanker harassment a lot of times, but it's very scientific, not to be underestimated. Well, I thought for sure that on the weekend we'd have someone who wanted to come in. It's unfortunate. Well, what are you going to do? Let's see here. Okay. Well, you can mention channels in the comments. You just don't do it when you come in. You can say whatever you want in the comments as long as that if you break the rules too much, for your own safety. But it's like what I've talked about with interviews with targets. If you guys want to, if somebody does an interview with me and you want to, from your channel, say I was blah, 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 fine, you do whatever you want. I'm just trying to protect you as someone who is a victim of stalking and harassment. That's all. Because there are a lot of targets out there who regret coming forward and speaking about these things because they see what I'm talking about. They see how it affects their life, how it just adds problems to a very complicated scenario. And that's the last thing you want to do. That's what their job is. That's the complementary effect of this chain reaction that you're dealing with, because all the aspects of gang stalking complement each other, right? The reality flip. They all know something you don't know. We're watching you. And they're playing all these little games, and then they start subjecting you to the tyranny of that methodology to invade your mind, to sensitize you, to freak you out, to isolate you, and then the indoctrination begins, the manipulation begins, the isolation commences, and all these things keep going. And it looks like we do have someone in here. Let's see who it is. Oh, Kensha, welcome. Let's see. We'll get you on here. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, and you are live worldwide. Do you have anything to add to the forced silence, or you just want to give us some of your testimony?
Yeah, I don't know yet, but if you can ask me something.
No, that's good. We can do the questionnaire thing. That helps a lot of people out. So, how long have you been dealing with harassment?
Most of my life, I think.
Okay, so you've been a lifelong target. Was there ever a time where you experienced an increase in it to where, or have you always known? Has it always been the same, or was there ever a time that it just got real over the top and intense?
It's rather that I've never known
Excuse me.
that I never known about it like until like a year ago.
Okay, so but you thought back and you could see all these things happening.
Yeah,
That you weren't. Go ahead.
that it's not an accident, indeed.
Right, but so when that's interesting that you'd mentioned that. And can you turn your speaker phone off, or am I on Wi-Fi or something? We got a little bit of background reverberation going on.
Oh, maybe it's my laptop.
Okay.
But yeah, it's yeah, very sad, like the situation.
Well, let me ask you something a little more specific. So you said that it became obvious and you didn't know. So when you're thinking back on it, what kind of examples can you give us to where you had that aha moment where like, oh, I get it. That's what they were doing.
It's like
And yeah,
my ex boss is like a Freemason,
okay.
and I had like a sort of awakening moment, whatever, something like that, and that was when they attacked me, like actively, sort of.
Hmm.
And then I found out all my neighbors were involved, and it was like criminals and whoever was all around me, all my fake friends and family, and like everybody knew for years.
That's creepy, isn't it? That's one of the hardest things to deal with because the flip of your reality is bad enough, but the fact that it involves individuals that you thought you could trust is even more traumatizing. At least it was for me.
Yeah, and I have like some kind of program in my country to harass people like this, and it was also the military involved.
Yeah. Well, a lot
So
of
when
targets will talk about that. Go ahead.
I went to another country, like in South America, because I did some research on it. It was very interesting. But then my laptop got stolen out of my house with all the information on it. And then I went to someone else, and my laptop was over there, like they put it there.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
So go
took
ahead.
it I took it home and whatever, called the police, and oh, I found it back, and like the police all knew about it. And
So so you felt like all these people already knew.
yeah, it was like a whole scheme.
Wow.
And then it was like when I had that like awakening moment, like last year, and I had like how would you say that? I'm not like a prophet, like they say, but I knew things before things happened, except all those things, and all those people kept that secret from me. Like they knew
So
was
oh, I'm sorry. You said something that a lot of people are wondering. Very interesting. You said you knew things were going to happen. How? What do you mean?
like I predicted the crypto market, and I knew like the war was coming or whatever, all those kinds of things.
Okay. No, that happens to targets. I've seen that to where, but nobody will believe you, and it just makes you look like you're having a factitious delusion of grandeur. You know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, and that's why the government hates these kind of people. Now I found out, and that they want to silence people that know things.
Well, that it could be. But the thing is, the thing that I've realized out of that, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and sometimes the spiritual dimension will use that, and they'll kind of pump stuff, and it's like deja vu or
Yeah.
like dreams where things will happen and you'll know, or you just have a hunch. And
So they
from what I've experienced, maybe I'm wrong because one of the things that they will try to convince you of is that you are a prophet or something, and that, but really that information is coming from a dimensional perspective where they either they're setting it up and they know what's going to happen, or they have a type of dimensional perspective based on time dilation to where they know, and then they'll pump it into your head, and then the delusion is for you to think you're a prophet. You see what I mean?
yeah, because they use like mind control over me like for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And it's
exactly.
like
So it,
and it's like really from a house next door that's empty. That's like 8 years empty since I lived here, because I was put in this house, literally.
Really?
I w- yeah, I was like living in my last house. I was attacked by some drugs criminal that lives next to me because they also selected that house for me. And the previous house because I already moved 3 times. So
That's interesting. Let me ask you this because I've seen this before. Now you said you had now this is you're an interesting specimen
yeah, I
because
know.
not all targets have that type of activity where they're dealing with that type of
It,
seeming foreknowledge or little things like that. But I've seen that kind of thing. So was there ever a time where you knew to the point where you like when you moved into those places that you knew it was going to happen?
not really, because it was like most of my life was oh this is a nice coincidence that I get a house over there, and because I was driving in my van, like an old van, and my van ran out of fuel, or I it dropped the engine fell out, whatever, and I could just make it to a parking space, and I looked at the people in the garden, and I was like, oh, I wish I had a garden like this. And 2 months later, I got exactly that house. There was
Wow,
so
wow.
that, and I thought it was an accident, but it's like fucking mind control. Like, oh, sorry.
No, you slipped up, but that's okay. We're all with the programming. It does that to everyone, but you're obeying the rules. But no,
Yeah.
I've seen that kind of thing.
And
And yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
what they also did, like, now I know that all my girlfriends are fake, like always have been. Only the first one wasn't, but that was like I don't know 30 years ago. But
Right.
I had like a girlfriend that they always tried to get me depressed. Like they had always selected someone that was like with problems or whatever, I don't know. And then I moved to that house where I parked with my van by accident, and the neighbor in the street, he worked at a company with the last name of my ex-girlfriend, so I had to see that every time.
So there's all kinds of synchronicities involved in it as well.
Yeah, it's extreme, and I always thought that it's like, oh, what a nice synchronicity, and not that one, but other things. Like
Yeah.
one time, I was searching for a vacuum cleaner, like, and I didn't want to buy one. I was searching for it like all weekend and whatever, and I thought, oh well, it comes when it's ready, whatever. And I went to work, and I got on work. Some girls were fighting over a vacuum cleaner that it wasn't working, and I was gonna buy a new one for the company. And they said, "Oh, you can take this one." It was like a brand new one, and I was like, "Oh, can't be anything wrong with it." So it was only like a piece of paper stuck in the tube, whatever. And I got that vacuum cleaner, and I thought, oh wow, that's a coincidence. Oh, I got a new vacuum cleaner. So and that's just it's all like thought out before I
Yeah.
got there.
Yeah.
So
No,
uh,
that's very common. And then the targets that I don't mean to interrupt you, but they look like they have some kind of factitious delusion at that point.
yeah, and it was a pink vacuum cleaner,
My
and I
gosh.
and I still have it, but I always thought like, oh, I didn't ask for the right color, or I wasn't believing in any god or whatever at that time. And they also like they did that like last year before all this like happened. They made me like go to the church, like from out of nothing, because my family doesn't have anything with the church or never went there. And suddenly I always went to like a secondhand store and started collecting things there. And there was some guy, oh, we're looking for a Bible. And he pointed me like in the right way. Oh, you have to take this one and this one. And it was like, and I asked for that guy, where did you come from? And it was like from the village my father and my brother live now. Not in my city, like just some outside. And I was like, oh, that's a coincidence. And oh, we're gonna read the Bible. And then I went to church, and those people were like, yeah, indoctrinating me or influencing me on a weird way, or like, um, they also call it like the energy vampires. If you have ever heard of that,
Yeah. Well,
like,
interesting. Wait, hold on. This is really intense, man. What you so here you get these. suggestions. You don't, you know anything about. You were never involved. You were not raised around church, and then now the next thing you
Yeah,
know, you're introduced to the spiritual dimension, and you go
yeah.
to church, and you now this is wow. So okay, what did they do?
Well, I was like sitting there, like I chose a chair to sit there, and they were all like Jesus, and it was whatever. And I thought, oh well, that's a new experience. And they used all like instruments and whatever. Yeah, it was like I thought, well, maybe it's fun or whatever to experience this for the first time. It was not a normal church, but like a small group of people. So it could have could have all been Freemasons or whatever.
Wait a minute. So
Also,
you're not even talking about a church building. You're talking about like a house meeting or something.
yeah, it was like a church building, but it's rented by those people. Like I said, like it was like a sort of stage or whatever.
Do you know what kind of denomination it was?
Yeah, they call it like in Dutch it's like gemeente, but it's called
Was it a Pentecostal church?
yeah, it's like a small building, but it was used as a church.
Were they speaking in tongues and all that stuff, or was it something else?
No, we're reading from the Bible,
Okay, okay. So it wasn't a Pentecostal church. Okay.
and I also got a Bible from the pastor there, and it was like half Indonesian, most of the people, and that spoke to me too because like before all this, go back 2 years, I went to South America, and then I stayed at a plantation with my last name because that's the thing I found on the internet, and I did some research on that, and that all turned out to be like fake. Also, like with friends that went with me, and they all stabbed me in the back eventually.
We're moving a little too fast, and I know
Yeah,
you
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
went back. It's no, that happens because it happens to a lot of targets. We jump around. You
yeah,
mentioned that they were indoctrinating you, and then we'll get to the spiritual vampire part after that. But
yeah.
you mentioned that they were what did they indoctrinate you with?
Yeah, it was like a normal scriptures or the Bible or whatever, but it felt like it was all pushed in a certain way, like uh, because some of the verses or things I recognized, like that, yeah, like they did subjections or projections or whatever of the things that I was working on or thinking of or whatever. Like, yeah, how do you say that? Conversations, wop up.
So you're saying that there was some synchronicities going on there, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A little bit too much, and that they wanted me to come back, of course. And oh, you're welcome here, and oh, you're new, and whatever, and oh yeah. And then
Now
I
let's get
did,
okay. That's normal, but let's get what you talked about spiritual vampirism.
yeah.
What
It's
happened there? What happened there?
yeah. Well, eventually became like weak, and got emotional, and all these kind of things. Like I felt like half asleep, like you were sucked dry or something.
Okay, well, but why? What happened that you would correlate it with that?
Yeah, just like if you would sit in a car for 10 hours or something and you would like drift away and fall
Well,
asleep.
I get what you're talking about, but why would you correlate it with the people at church? Is my point.
Yeah, because it was like yeah, they did it on purpose or something. And
So
I also
why do you think it was them? That's what I'm getting at.
um it was all too organized.
So you're saying that these synchronicities happened, and then the sequelae of the vexation,
And it
and
also
well,
uh,
it could have been a demonic thing, and they might not have anything to do with it. That's my point. I
yeah,
don't know.
and the name was also like from it was called like Harvest or something, and I was like, oh no, afterwards.
No,
Oh, there,
that's they might not have had it. This was there anything obvious? I mean, did they? I mean, because
I don't know,
synchronicities are going to happen. That's and
like
then also
harvesting your soul or something.
no, they're not going to do that. No, but there are people who do get gang stalked in church, and usually there can be things like that happening. And but as far as just coincidences, so
Mhm.
people weren't. I mean, were they using direct conversations? Were they being obvious?
Yeah, they did send some people to me to talk to
Yeah,
me,
okay. Well,
like
there always there's always a few of them. Yeah.
yeah, and also like a younger girl because like a half Indonesian, and they talked about crypto with me because yeah, I was very into crypto every day, and I was like also for 5 years already, And the whole thing was that if I go back to that South America story for a short while, I had like contact with a girl there, and she was like half Indonesian, but that turned out all to be a big scam. Like
Wow.
I didn't even have contact with that girl. There was just a criminal group behind it,
Wow.
and that's why all the people in church were like half Indonesian, and I got an uncle that's half Indonesian, so it's yeah. So I didn't have problems with that, you know.
Hmm.
But then I found
Interesting.
out like yeah, some of them was like from another belief system. I'm not gonna mention.
No, you're doing fine. You
Yeah,
can mention that. You can't give spiritual advice or promote
yeah.
any other religion. What was it?
It was like Muslims,
Okay. Yeah.
like
Okay. Yeah.
whatever.
Right on. Yeah.
And the whole religion is not the problem. It was rather that I got robbed in my own house, like from my laptop, and I knew it was my neighbors, and my neighbors were like drug dealers,
So they were already,
and
but
that was
so
all. They were all like put here because first I was had before that the neighbors were there. There was a nicer gentleman living over there, and he was like growing plants in the greenhouse, in the glass greenhouse, like on large scale. And that's my hobby too. So I thought, oh well, I'm gonna work with him and do some things with plants and grow my vegetables and palm trees. And oh, great! And then I went there, and eventually found out he wasn't so Christian, and he was like only listen to rock music and all the satanic shit.
okay. Well,
all
sometimes they're masquerading, and then sometimes people have issues with they have, I don't know, associations with things they've been regulated with the past that kind of hang on.
but it was
So, but what did
weird.
he do? What did he do that made you think he was stalking you?
No, yeah, it was living next door, and it's like we're all cramped together, like in this small block of houses. You know, it's all like the next door is like 30 centimeters from me. Like the doors are next to each other, and all the noise you can hear from each other, and the music you're playing, all those kind of things. So everybody knows. And he was not the problem, only the neighbors that came after him, and the neighbors upstairs, and the other neighbors on the other side, and then someone else came from another country suddenly, and a girl that lived here, and they were like all they were all put here, literally all of them. And I didn't know that, you know, because you don't suspect those kind of operations or whatever surrounding you.
So you had a type of energy drain to where you felt exhausted
Yeah,
and and vexed. Have you ever experienced the break-ins or the food tampering?
yeah, because when I had like that, yeah, my money was stolen, like with mind control and noise campaigns, and like I don't know what they did. It was just like, but frequent. I also get hit by frequencies, by the way, like 24 hours a day in my house. And I know it's like I looked for it, like frequencies they can have like from 4 hertz to like 10 hertz, and all in between they can make you feel like depressed or suicidal or all these kind of things in between. And if they turn that up all day in your house, you don't feel like doing anything. So that's the whole thing also.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
here.
you've experienced a lot of different types of attacks,
Hmm.
and so would you? Well, let me ask you this: would you feel comfortable in going out to a restaurant and ordering food at this point?
Never again, because I also like ordered food like pizza like a few years ago, and then I was just sick like for 3 days, like I was
Yeah.
like dying,
Wow. What
and
happened? What were the symptoms?
like throwing up until the last drop.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah,
that's common.
and
No, that's yeah.
nobody was here, and it was also with like my last ex girlfriend, whatever. Don't even call it a girlfriend because now I know it was all like fake. And I went to like a Chinese restaurant, and they know I like a certain kind of dish that you eat like the whole thing yourself. And also from that, I was poisoned, like also 3 days, like throwing up and whatever,
So
exactly
it
the
seemed
same.
like it was the same thing each time. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, and the most extreme thing was this, like all things like happened. They already got poisoned, and I got scammed and everything. And then like oh well, I'm gonna go to a museum, like to distract myself, you know. And I always went to a military museum, like when I was young. And I thought, well, I'm gonna visit that one because it's like revisited, and it got like airplanes and whatever. So I went there, and I got there, and it was like the red carpet was laid out for me, and people stood in front of the door waiting for people to give them a discount.
Hmm.
I didn't suspect anything, but it was like a normal weekday and not in the weekend or whatever. So there was nobody in the whole thing almost. And I wrote myself in, or I gave my name or whatever. So from that moment, they knew I was there, you know. And I didn't suspect anything when I walked in, of course. But I got a discount, whatever. So and everyone goes for a discount, of course.
So you're basically living the Truman Show at this point. Is what you it feels like,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, it's 100%. So I went to the museum, and it was all like I don't know, everything felt emotional, and I was like, oh, this is like it's also like it was like airplanes, military, and also like the how do you say it? It is like the Kingdom of the Netherlands, by the way. So it was all like military, police, and all these kind of things, and all kinds of things like spoke to me, like, oh, this is impressive, and this and whatever. And suddenly I was looking at some yeah, artillery things or whatever what it was in the what they're showing there. And suddenly there were like five people from the army like standing next to me, around me, like surrounding me, and all like in military clothing, like complete. And I was
Wow,
like, okay, well, and I know that clothing because that's the whole thing. It all started with. I bought,
wow.
I bought that clothing online myself, like secondhand or whatever. You can buy it online, and that was the whole goal to buy that clothing to go and do into the jungle to for survival purposes and whatever, because I just liked it. And I also got like a call from the military itself, like, "Oh, why did you buy that clothing?" hmm
Are you like a survivalist type of individual?
I was planning to, but that's the whole thing. They also don't want because, like, even the police make like a list from, oh, these people who think for themselves. Like I just looked in the comments.
Right, right.
They do survival. They grow their own vegetables. They think radical or whatever they think it's radical. I don't know. They can fix cars like I do. Uh,
So
you can.
you're an independent. You grow your own food. You fix your own vehicles, and it sounds like you're earning independent income through maybe
Yeah,
Bitcoin or other investments. Is that correct?
yeah, that was the goal, but they stole it all from me.
Whoa! Wait a minute. What? How?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Now it was like I was at home. I was called by the neighbors, and the neighbors were saying, "Yeah, they're doing like voodoo upstairs or whatever," and that's really what they're doing. And not anymore, but and then another one called, and this called, and I also was like already like hacked in my computer and my phone, and the the next door neighbor, like on the other side of the wall, it was like I don't know, firing like microwaves on my head or something. that that's how
Wow!
it that's how it felt like. I could feel it in my jaw,
Wow!
and all these kind of things. And I've been mind controlled like I don't know for how long, which I didn't know. And before that happened, before that evening, because I did smoke weed, yeah, and I also and I went to get some weed, and then the guy in the shop said, "Oh, I got some weed for you. This is the one you need. It's the enemy of the state."
So he was dragged the conversation again.
Yeah, of course, because if you if you know the movie Enemy
Right.
of
Yeah,
the State,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
it's all about like spies and microphones, like
But it
I'm
seems
talking.
like they're everywhere, right?
That's why I disconnected this microphone I'm talking into now.
Well, no, don't worry about it. I mean, it's
No,
very
because
no,
it's all over the internet now, so it doesn't matter
yeah.
anymore.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
No, and that's the whole thing because all my emails hacked, all my everything is all they know everything about you, and
Well, they
and the
may
other thing,
they might, but they don't. Yeah, no, yeah. It doesn't pay to be skittish because you're just playing into their game at that point. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
people will say that to me. It's like, I don't want to get on Facebook because they'll hack me. They've
Yeah,
already. It depends on what you're dealing with. They've already hacked everything anyway. But I get that. I do.
my Facebook was also the biggest problem because I had some yeah, some wrong people on Facebook that only had my Facebook to check out what was I saying, because it all started like around the COVID area, you know.
Yeah. Well,
And
I want to add a positive spin to this because you
yeah,
sound very resilient, and you sound like an individual who's used their time very well, and you to the point where not only are have you figured a lot of this out to the point where you did research, but you've learned how to survive. You've learned how to grow your own vegetables. You've researched,
yeah, but
cryptocurrency, and I mean you're an independent individual. Very
yeah,
rare
true.
that someone
But
could have those skills.
now it's all taken away.
Not necessarily. How?
Yeah, because I was all sabotaged, like with the greenhouse. Like people started destroying my plants, and
What?
they,
What? Tell us. What do you mean? What happened?
they threw like things in the water, so your plants would die.
Right. Well, no, you're right. You're right. They'll absolutely do those things.
Yeah,
That wasn't my point, but that's interesting. My point is that you're not the ordinary individual. You're somebody
no.
who could literally probably be self-sustaining in a
Yeah.
world where other individuals are dependent on the government. You can grow your own food.
Mhm.
You could probably figure out ways to harvest quail eggs and everything else, and to earn money from the internet and be fairly independent.
Yeah, but that's
But the problem that you didn't have enough capital to surround yourself with a security fence, and you had to deal with all these sabotagers.
and what I didn't know was like everyone around me that I told about everything, which I trusted, even my own family and friends that I've known for like
You didn't know you didn't know what they were doing. Yeah,
like for 20 years or even longer,
yeah.
like even 30 years, And then I found out from, oh, he was fake too, or oh, okay, oh, he was just hanging around for good advice and then dumped me.
Wow.
And some of them were also like, I know one of them was in the military, one was like military police, and I didn't suspect anything because they said they didn't work there anymore, but it could have still have been because yeah, the museum that I went to was from the military, the stuff I bought was from the military, whatever. It's all has like connections, and the worst connection is this one, that my father worked for the military, like for a research lab, like
Yeah.
a long time ago. And what
Tell.
they
Go
and
ahead.
what
So go ahead.
and what they did there was like experiment on mice and monkeys.
Oh my God.
So if you know that what they do, it's not just for we're gonna test cancer or something. That's not the whole thing, because they never told what they were doing there. And now I thought about it, and I researched some papers about it, and I was like, oh, they're doing human research.
Oh yeah. Huh.
So this is also like the same thing. They like social experimenting on mice. You know that they do that, like starve them or look what they do and the
Right. Right.
groups or whatever, if or isolate a mice from the rest of the group, or I don't know, all kinds of things you can think of. And if you use monkeys on that too, and also like with brain control, or maybe I don't know, maybe they researched the brain itself from the monkeys because they couldn't do that on people, of course.
Well,
But
no,
no,
they've been. Oh, yeah, they were that. That's how this whole thing started. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is what I thought earlier, like, okay, what if my own father gave me up for this whole program? And that's
Oh
what I
my gosh. Yeah.
and that's what I think.
So you think that a lot of people talk about that? There's individuals involved in, the Hollywood scenario where it's almost. And I've heard this. It's hard to look up this information, but the infiltration of these types of experiments and the methodology involved in not only creating, Manchurian candidates, but almost
Yeah, it's
like
too bad. I
enhanced
watched
enhanced people, super people that have, abilities like what you're talking about.
and
And
the thing is also like, of course, I started thinking back to like some years ago, like when could it have started really, or whatever. I don't have a really like
so
a
you
certain.
think maybe it was like they got approached by some type of covert program, and
Yeah,
but they might not have known what it was, and now you but or did they know? What do you think?
I know it. It all started like when I was interested in conspiracy theories instead of watching TV, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they don't. Yeah, that's how a lot of people end up on the
And
watch list. That happened to me. Yeah,
because because they can see if you don't own like a TV subscription, or you don't watch TV, because they can also see what you're watching, of course.
yeah.
If you have one, and if you don't watch any, or you don't have a normal TV subscription and only internet, yeah, then you're on the list already.
Well, they already. Yeah, they've got AI running a lot of trade that's going on, and
Yeah,
that stuff is creating a type of I don't know, Armageddon in the trade world. But the thing is that if you watch certain things, if you look up conspiracies, like you said, you're flagged.
hmm
It's all there, and you triggered that mechanism, and you fit the profile of someone who is on the terrorist watch list, pretty much,
and
as far as I know.
I think I triggered it a little bit too much, like like I'm on top of
Yeah,
it.
you figured out quite a bit. It sounds like.
Yeah, and it was once like
Wow.
I lived in another city, and I thought, oh well, I'm gonna take my bike instead of my car to work, and that's healthier, you know. Well, and then I got back from work, and I took a shortcut somewhere, and I tripped, or my bike got stuck between some fence, whatever, and I fell on my head. Yeah, and then I had to go to the hospital, whatever, get it stitched, and blood everywhere. I don't know. And that was also like the period. Then I thought, van, oh, that was the moment everything changed.
So you are you thinking that
Now, well,
somehow the accident kind of altered your brain in a way where it amalgamated in with something that you were put into a program with as a child?
I do have some kind of thing on my head, you know, like I can feel something on my head. That's the whole thing.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Describe
Like
that.
like some kind of extrusion, whatever. How do you call it?
Because you can literally physically feel it.
Uh huh. And then I thought, because nobody said anything about it, and I was like, well, if those, and I don't know, it's not like Neuralink or whatever, but it could have been like a very small thing, and you never know what they did there. And they
Wow.
gave me like a scan, you know, and there was a, and it was also like my brother was involved, because there was like friend of my brother. He was like with me. Oh yeah, you're gonna have to get someone with you if everything goes right. If you wake up in the morning or whatever, those kind of things. And also when I lived in that other city, it was the like the time that how do you gonna say this? The mushrooms, you know, mushrooms.
Okay, so you had a little bit of psilocybin.
Yeah, and then that guy introduced me to all the conspiracies.
Well, okay, but you didn't need that though, right? You already knew about it.
No, 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 that was like the start of everything, because he showed me like that was the first thing I looked up myself. It was like George Bush, and in that
Oh,
time,
so that was the beginning of your pilgrimage
yeah, yeah,
into the rabbit hole of conspiracies. Okay.
yeah. And it was like you know, all the George Bush stories with where on the I don't know which university it was. I don't know. Skull and Bones. That what is that was the
Right, right. The Illuminati and
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I found that all out, you know. And at that time, I worked for that Freemason dude. So
So
my
all these things seem to be, that's a lot of what targets deal with, and there's a framework, right? And
yeah,
I've mentioned that it's like you're surrounded by all this stuff. You don't even know it's there, and then when all this stuff goes down, you start connecting dots. You
yeah,
start
a
you
little
start
too
yeah.
late.
Go ahead.
It was a little too late, you know,
Yeah.
because it was. Oh yeah, that was also a thing. I had a nice car, and I had a new wheels on it. I was very proud of it. And then one evening, I parked my car, whatever, and oh, I thought I heard something in the street, so I went outside. You know, I didn't trust anything, whatever. And I looked, oh, nothing wrong. And I went inside, and the next day I woke up and I looked at my car, and all my wheels were gone.
No way.
Yeah, I was standing on 4 blocks. So I called my work and I said, "Yeah, all my wheels are gone or whatever. So I have to get other wheels on it, and though later I can come to work." So I got to my work later on, and exactly in the same week, um, they put up a poster above my head, above my workspace, and it was like a poster of a car without wheels.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and it was like an advertisement from Microsoft, and
Uh, yeah.
later out I found out it was like just it was made by them 100%. That poster doesn't even exist, you know.
Wow.
And it was like a car without wheels is like a computer without Microsoft.
All right. So how much now you said that you were doing well in crypto, how much did they steal from you?
30K.
Oh my god. Did you have a cold wallet or did you weren't going
Uh,
through an ETF obviously.
the whole thing was like it was all like so staged and whatever. I can hit myself in the head for it.
Oh my god.
But the other thing is this, that they try to get me to South America for that fake girl, you know.
Wait a minute. What about this girl? What are you talking about? Honeypot?
Yeah, honeypot, yeah. And I didn't even know that word, you know. and
No,
everyone
that's what they are though. That's what they are.
and everyone around me knew about it, that it was fake. Even
Oh my
my
god.
my own brother, mother, everyone. I don't know. Everyone knew. So they just planned to let me go there, you know. And
So
I
what,
don't.
you contacted this person on the internet and then you went to
No, I met her in real time, like I went there. So
okay.
and I made whole plans to stay there and whatever, and that was all like a setup.
Yeah.
And I think even the worst thing is that it was like a destiny swap. That a friend of mine he took my place instead of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of predatory stuff,
Yeah.
concerning honeypots and concerning, even financial things. Did that individual try to, kind of milk you dry with the money thing or what?
Yeah, yeah, because he knew all about it. Because because it was all my friends. I was like advising them from, oh, buy this and buy this. You know, this is going up, and this thing you have to watch and whatever. And I was just trying to help them all. You know. So
Wow.
and on the other, they just knew what I had or whatever. My computer was hacked, and which I some of them I still trust, but they're like I know they're threatened by someone, like criminals,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was also like sending stuff to South America, whatever, in boxes like secondhand things and clothing and whatever. And then later I thought like, okay, so they have my secondhand clothing, and the other guy, his mother does like nails, and maybe they went to my barber. I don't know, and they can make a voodoo
My
doll or
God.
whatever. Yeah, yeah. I thought about all that later,
It just
and
seems like a labyrinth that this is not possible,
yeah,
but it is.
yeah, it is because it's like incredible amount of people, and it also like the place I stayed in South America on that plantation, like a lady
Huh,
there.
you traveled around with it. Wait a minute now. So, so a lot of people think they can just leave and get away, and obviously that's not possible. So this stuff was everywhere for you.
Yeah, because it was all set up like planned from before, like
Oh my God!
before I went there, because I was like actively telling people like, oh, you're gonna do that and that, and with a fake friend of mine. And the worst thing is like the situation I am in now. Like I know these people are like, yeah, big criminals.
God, how do you? What do you mean you know them?
Yeah, because I was growing that
Okay, we already talked about that. So you got hooked up into an underworld. Is what you're saying? Okay, I
yeah,
got you. All
yeah,
right.
something like that.
You didn't know
Because
that though at the time. Is that correct?
no, because I'm not the criminal.
Okay.
But the whole thing is like after all this happened, they sent in the police and the healthcare and whatever, like to traumatize me. First they stole my money, and then they sent like the police, and then they
So
threw
yeah.
like
So they took $30,000 from you.
uh, yeah, euros is even more.
Oh, so that's it. So we don't need to get into that. But and
No,
so
rather
now
not.
what you got a lot of skills. You got a lot of talent beyond
Yeah.
most people that I've ever met. How are you surviving?
Uh, by the government.
Okay, so you're taking supplemental income. Is that correct?
That's the whole problem, because why they did this is also that is the whole thing. But before I didn't have work, they also tried to get me fired everywhere.
Okay,
They,
you dealt
they
with workplace harassment. Okay,
yeah, and I didn't know that because I didn't know about this whole thing, and it was all happening like
it
all the
was all
time,
sabotage. You just didn't know how to connect the dots.
all the time, like every employer I had, and
Oh my gosh!
I was also like driving around in a van, and you had like the Leonardo da Vinci logo on it, and
Oh
then
my God!
and then I later saw that it was like an upside
Shutter
down.
Island, right?
It's
Yeah.
a pentagram, like upside down,
Oh my
and
gosh!
yeah, I later saw that, and it's like Freemasons or whatever. So and then I thought, how did I get that work? You know, but it was all like sent to me, or oh, do you are you looking for any work or whatever? And there was also like a van standing in the street with that logo like further up on in the street, and the whole company is like I don't know, 100 kilometers from here.
Wow. So you sound pretty advanced in computer skills. Is that correct?
Not really, but I'm handy at it. But yeah, I don't do anything with it.
Okay, so you know how to use a computer, but you're more of a mechanic and a horticulture guy, right?
Yeah, I do all kinds of things. I can also build little houses. That was what I was planning in South America, because I did build something there on someone else's land, but I didn't finish that. That was the whole plan.
So you're a carpenter as well. Is that correct?
I tried to.
Man, you got a lot of skills.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's self-taught, you know.
Wow.
But
So sometimes that's the best because a lot of people, they'll become, I don't know, the kind of so you had to use a scientific inductive method to figure out how to do things properly rather than to
yeah.
learn it through data compression. Yeah.
But now I'm like, how do you call it? Stuck with nothing. because
Well, how that happened? I
uh,
mean,
uh,
I see what happened, but with the skills that you have,
yeah, that's why they tried to stop me.
okay.
And the whole
You've been chased around, and now you're just collecting supplemental income and trying to start from nothing. What about internet? I mean, where you're at? Can you? I mean, it sounds like you have enough computer skills.
yeah, the thing is they blacklist me.
Okay.
So every contact I have, everything I say to people, is just hacked and compromised. Even the old friends I had, they disappeared for a while, and then I start commenting on it, or start, yeah, seeing them for a while again. And I told like the truth about all this, and they just started gaslighting because they know it. They have instructions. They got instructions from someone, and so I got an old friend, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'll come by and get a drink or whatever." And I thought, okay, well, that's okay. And then he visited my house, and he said, "Oh, I brought some food with me," and he'd like hamburgers or whatever. And the whole thing was he bought like exactly the same groceries I bought the day before, like exact. And I was like, "Yeah, this is no coincidence." And he said, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend just got it, had it in the fridge." And, yeah, fuck off. It's impossible.
So
So
go
that's
ahead.
how that's how they showed like we're watching you.
Right. Yeah, but they're driving you crazy because if you say anything, that's just a coincidence, right?
Yeah, then again, deny what I was saying, of course, to gaslight me with it. And then I was like, "Yeah, this is no coincidence," and that's why they got instructions. I also got like an old friend, and he didn't call me for years, and suddenly he appeared. And then he was like, "Oh, and I went on vacation, and everything is great, and whatever." And he started,
That doesn't even make sense, though, does it? Why would somebody just disappear, right?
because they had instructions to do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not normal, right?
Or a old friend that got here and started making complaints about everything in my home or whatever out of nothing, and just to make an argument and to disappear.
Yeah,
And that, yeah.
yeah. This drama.
hmm And it's also my mother and my brother. Oh yeah, my brother is the biggest narcissist on the world. I found out. That's
But it didn't happen before this, right?
Yeah. I did know a little bit about narcissism, but not like how bad it can be.
So, wow.
Because I always help people with everything. And then I found out, oh, I always helped him and he didn't do anything for me. And since he got involved in this whole program or with criminals, I don't know,
My
everything,
gosh. How does
everything.
you don't know if it's spiritual or whether these things, because a lot of people deal with that's part of the problem is
The
that we
spi-
don't know how people become involved in this whole thing. And they could go ahead.
the spiritual thing is like the Freemasons, because what I said, like my former employer, I had like that nice awakening moment for myself, like I could I can see clearly now, you know like that. And I
So
saw like,
they were doing that song with you and messing with you. Is that what
oh
you're talking
yeah,
about?
that also, yeah.
Yeah, I've had that one. I've had that one.
And
Yeah.
the most extreme thing, about the files that came out like this year, those files. I'm not gonna talk about that.
No, we know about the files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then I had like, oh, I'm gonna make pizza this year.
So
so I was
they were even hinting around about that. Okay.
so I made the best pizzas ever. Uh-huh. Because I looked it up from Italy and I got all the flour and all the best stuff and whatever. I'm very good at it. So I invited all those fake friends to eat pizza at my place. But they only came to collect information about me.
Wow. So, but that is true though. You get the right flour from Italy, and
Yeah.
you can actually eat the bread. That's it.
Yeah.
That's that. Isn't that wild? I
Yeah.
want
It's
to do that. I want to do that, man. That's cool that you know that. Yeah. No, seriously, people don't realize how, you get the bleached flour
Yeah.
and the hybrid flour and everything. It just messes you up, you know.
Yeah, I got the best flour indeed for that. And
Um,
but the whole thing is, it was like all also a setup. And when I had like contact with that girl online, which I thought, well, it was a girl, and now I thought the contact with that fake girl was like the next door neighbor.
wow.
And she has been quiet for 2 years now, and now I know it's like all fake because they come from
My gosh, there's nothing that's safe. It seems like this whole thing is just manufactured out of
yeah.
some kind of Twilight Zone movie. You
Yeah,
know,
because it's my half my street here. Because it's also like same people here in the street that work for the coffee shop that sells weed. We got like one coffee shop,
right?
and the other thing is that the only place in all of the Netherlands has one like sort of CIA building. Yeah, and that's here in my city.
Oh, so you're geographically located in a place where they would be doing this kind of thing. Is what you're saying?
It's just like experimenting on people, how far they can go or whatever. Because I also had like a lot of police in the street and all kinds of street theater, how you call it. Like fake fights with neighbors to
Try
distract
and get
you
you involved in the whole thing. Yeah.
and get me involved indeed. Because of course I did like when I got stolen from, of when they robbed me of my laptop or whatever. Of course I got to go to the police, but they also like they knew where was coming.
Wow,
All those kind of things. Like I walked to the station, and it was like they were waiting for me. I didn't even call before.
man, that's
So what?
that's dude. Wow.
So what someone said like earlier, that if they have your DNA and how they can track you or whatever, I surely believe that they have some kind of a neurological system for it.
Maybe they have some type of plan that is set up in the spiritual dimension too. You never know.
Well, it's also like what they call like mind reading with EEG, like brain waves,
Right.
and they can influence the brain waves with the frequencies I said. And I can also sometimes you can just feel it, like it's like
Hmm.
active or whatever.
You
If
don't know. For me, I believe that there's a lot of technology that comes from spiritual dimension, and I see a lot of things that targets are dealing with, and I also see evidence that they're working on these things, and so I wouldn't argue with that. But I also see space time. And I
Yeah.
also see, the possibilities for the construct that we are living in within
Mhm.
space time, which involves time dilation and other things. And so, but not that all the stalkers out there are doing that, but their handlers could be.
Yeah,
And
the
that's go ahead,
most stalkers are just uh, cheap people, how I call them.
little
Like
puppets. Yeah,
they have like no money or no job, and they get paid like to live next to me.
sometimes that happens. Absolutely, yes.
So I got a few of them around here, that's for
You got to
sure.
be careful, though. You got to be careful not to react.
Oh yeah, I already did.
Okay. Okay.
and
Well,
that's
how'd that
and
work
that's
out, though?
well, I got the police 3 times.
Okay.
And the whole thing now is like they sent in like healthcare and to get me like crazy on
Well,
paper.
yeah, that's what they're going to do. What happened?
Yeah, but it's the whole thing. Like also my mother worked on that kind of things. I know
So
that
she
for
was
sure.
involved in the mental health care system. Is that what you're saying?
Also, but also like I think like the police or whatever or some institution, they called my parents or my mother to convince her to call the healthcare on me.
Wait a minute now. So did you ever say anything to your mom?
Too much about conspiracies, maybe.
Okay, that's probably what happened. They might
Yeah,
not have told her. It might have been a chain reaction, but maybe you're right. Maybe you are. Maybe you're right.
yeah, but it is all like what I said before. They knew it like 3 years ago or something, and they just let me bake some pizzas and whatever, and let me go do my thing, and just didn't tell me about anything that was happening.
They're waiting for you to react. That's what they're
Yeah,
doing. Yeah.
and to steal my money.
Oh, that's crazy. So,
Yeah,
so you,
what the whole thing is because what they do with that, how they call it, divination with tarot cards and people that look into your future or
yeah,
whatever.
that's how they do that. Yeah,
Well,
that's my point.
that's what they have done, like always, I think. And the whole scary thing is, and what I'm just sick of, is they knew I was gonna be rich.
So they knew all that stuff to set you up. They knew how to take the money before you had it. That's what you're getting
Yeah,
at.
yeah. Also,
I
yeah.
believe you. I believe that. I do.
And it was also like I had a dream. I was like rich in my dream, and my brother was there. And then I told my brother because he was there in my dream.
Oh my
But
gosh.
but now I know like they can influence my dreams.
Oh my gosh.
So also that thing could have been fake. What I dreamed, you know?
Well, yeah. So there, it's all a menagerie of manipulation
Yeah.
and stimuli
Hmm.
to get you to believe something and to get you to react and to get you into a place where you're going to be stifled and, like I said, you're going to be forced silenced and you're going to be in a type of prison without walls because nobody will believe you.
Yeah.
Nobody will believe it.
So that's the whole thing. Now I'm isolated for a year or something.
Yeah.
And what they did afterwards, after everything happened, it was like they cut off all my contacts.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Not all.
let me say this. Do you need validation anymore? I mean, you're going to have to get over that, can't you?
Yeah,
You're
that's the
you're
whole.
you know think about this. You're From what you've described, you're a self-sustaining, formidable individual with a many different skills.
Yeah, but that's the
And
whole thing. I can't
but
use.
you don't need them. What do you got? What do forget about it. Forget about them.
Remember, the whole
You're
thing is
actually
that
you're being set free. Is what you're doing.
I
It
thought
can't work that way.
I thought about it like that, but the whole problem is that everywhere I go, or
Well,
I
yeah,
had like,
they're everywhere.
so the whole thing is I can't do my things.
But no. So okay, that was my emphasis. You have skills and are self-sufficient. You do not need their affirmation or their permission because you are technically you're more skilled than they are. They wouldn't be able to do what you can do.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true. But I had like, how do you call it? Like work you do for free. How do you call that?
Well, it's philanthropy.
Yeah, like that. So I was helping like kids with gardening or whatever for for the municipality. How do you call it? Gemeente or whatever.
Humane society,
Yeah, for
philanthropy. Yeah.
society work, whatever. And I went there, and also there were people like giving hints about what I did, and like all kinds of things they knew about me. Like, yeah,
No, I believe all this stuff, and I want to help you out. You have a lot of skill. You have a lot of resilience. You are a warrior. Period. And I want to. Yeah, right now, you're taking advantage of the income that you can get, and I don't know what kind of restrictions are on that. Obviously, you have enough skills to step beyond that, and you say you're being sabotaged, which a lot of targets deal with. Is there any way possible that you can kind of incrementally, not all at once, because you can take advantage of that supplemental income, incrementally start to climb into a place where you have environmental authority and financial stability?
a little,
That's
but
what you have to do. That's what you have to do.
the whole thing is like the money I was supposed to have, like I was planning to leave this country, or at least go away from this place where I'm now. But
Right.
if I would have done that, I would have go to South America, to that fake setup, and what they would have done to me there, well, I wouldn't be talking now, I think.
Why would you okay, why would you try to run though? Because you can't get away. You must have figured that out now.
Yeah, at the moment I do. That's true.
Okay, well, you can't run to anywhere. I
But
mean, maybe there are different things that happen at different geographical locations. I'm not going to deny that. So maybe you do have a point, but it depends on what you're dealing with.
and it's just
So
this city which I'm in. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's like everywhere I go,
what
whether
could you do online with your skills right now that would earn you a passive income?
uh, yeah, not much at the moment.
Okay, okay. Do you know
Because
how to
yeah,
type? Do you know how to type?
yeah, of course I did also
Okay,
like
well, you could do data entry and make pretty good income.
yeah, of course, but the whole thing is you have to speak with that on the on government and whatever. You have to convince them that you can do that. And now they say like, oh, you got so many problems, you cannot work, and they just say that.
So you're being reevaluated for your status
Yeah,
concerning the supplemental income, which prevents you from getting a good job. Okay,
yeah, because you say, oh, you're just crazy and you cannot
you're
work.
nuts. You're on paper as being crazy. That was my
Yeah.
point.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point. Once they get you, it's game over. You
Mm-hmm.
know. And
But
now you're proof of that. So now you have skills. You're a formidable individual, but because you're on paper, you have to take the government check.
yeah, and the whole other thing is like what's happening is that I found out like the police that were visiting my place, it was like certain people that were there, like from other countries, how to say that, foreigners that work for the police, and they all have like connections or it's family from this and there and there and there and there, and they all know each other, like from all different institutions, or certain people are sent to my house specifically, and I could just say that because the police were just intimidating, just like making fun of me or what happened, or because they know the neighbors.
So you're experiencing that environmental tyranny where so
Well,
so what do you so now what are you going to do? I mean, you don't have to tell me your plan, but you're just right now you're just in stasis, living on supplemental income and just waiting for something to change or an
yeah,
opportunity to open up, basically, huh?
yeah, something like that. But it's also like they involve my parents or my family and
Well,
everybody
yeah. Well,
else.
see, that's the thing about the spiritual, and it could be what you're saying, but it also could be something else. And that's part of the delusions that I've talked about when it comes to the illusions. And a lot of targets talk about that. I've experienced it where people will be manipulated, but you think something that is more, and I'm not you necessarily, but me, where there's individuals becoming involved in your harassment, and you give them more credit than they deserve. You think that they're maybe going to be contacted, but
Yeah,
really they're just being manipulated, and they don't even know as much as you think they do. You know.
the whole thing is that they can be contacted by a whole other person that they think they are talking to, you know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different ways it's going to happen.
And it's also like, you know, the sort of best friends I had, they don't have contact with my family, but they don't do have contact with all institutions or those criminals that are behind this. And my family don't suspect them because it's, oh yeah, I'm just crazy or whatever, and he's telling stories and whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So it can go all ways. And if they have like a steady job and they can say, oh, but I have a steady job, so I'm more believable than him.
So it's incremental. They've discredited you incrementally. You can't find work. You've been sabotaged. You look like a nut, and now there's nothing you can do. You just feel like you're marginalized and isolated. Yeah, I think we all deal
Yeah.
with that. I've dealt with it.
And
So go
what
ahead.
I thought, like from the beginning when I was living here, like the upstairs neighbor, he was just she was working for, I don't know, a librarian or something, and it was like from the government, and I didn't think anything about it. And then later I found out from, oh, she's spying on me, like from the beginning. When I came here, because everybody is so quiet here. Never, nobody talks, nobody speaks, nobody makes any sounds like last couple of years. And it was also like when I visited a friend, and he always had like noise complaints in his home. And I went there, and we just have a nice evening, whatever. And I said to him, "How come it is so quiet?" And we turned off all the sounds and the music or whatever. And I was like listening, and I was like, "Nothing. How is that possible?" And that was like a week before everything happened.
Wow.
Because then I thought from, and he was also like having noise campaigns. So then I thought like everywhere I came, like all the friends I had, or fake friends or whatever. And it was also not an accident that it was all the friends that are who didn't take the jab, you know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating. I'm not going to say that.
No, no,
We
no.
can't
Yeah,
really, yeah, we can't really go there.
yeah, but it's not.
But I know
It's
what
not
you're
a.
talking about. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. So you're saying that people are being manipulated, and you're trying to figure out how, and we're speculating on is that how that's happening, and who knows? Who
and it
knows?
was it was more like not about any medical things, but it's more like how they think about, what happened all these couple of years. And those are exactly the people, yeah, I could talk with, of course. And those are also the people that got harassed in some kind of weird way. Like some people had like a lawnmower next to his room, like every morning, whatever. And the other one had like people sabotaging in his home or something. And the other also had like noise campaigns from upstairs. And then I didn't think anything about it before.
So now you think it was a directed conversation?
And now I thought like they are also harassed.
Oh, so
But
they're. Oh, I thought maybe they were hinting around, but
yeah,
you think they're targets too? Okay,
yeah, but they don't know it.
okay, I got you. So they haven't figured it out yet.
No, 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 because it's like not as crazy as it's happening to me. But it can be that they have been like threatened, of course. Like there's something behind all this,
No, that happens a lot. Yeah,
and they can
absolutely.
say like, if you still have contact with him, then we're gonna do to you what's happening to him.
Yeah. No, no,
In,
you're right. Yeah,
in that
yeah.
kind of way, so they can sabotage their lives or yeah.
No, this is a great testimony. It follows the pattern. Absolutely perfect.
And
And
also
go ahead. Go ahead.
Also, some kind of weird thing was like an ex-girlfriend I didn't see like for a long time ago, and I sent her like a message some months ago, and suddenly she stood at my door. Like I was
Oh
okay,
man.
what you're doing here? And then she started talking, and oh yeah, why did you send that to me? And yeah, I just said, well, I wish I knew this all before. What's happening to my life? And she I already knew it, and and
Oh
and
man.
eventually she said like, "Oh, why don't you just end your life?"
Oh my gosh. So these are infiltrators.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, they want the oh man. That's and let's get so forced silence is one thing, and you know forced isolation is another. And what do you do with these people? I mean, I've experienced this firsthand, and I don't claim to know everything about this. But for me, and I'm not saying because I've talked about the time frame, is that I want to connect with people and I want to have relationships. But when it seems like no matter what you do, when you let somebody in, it's like these things happen, and so it's okay to have a time of isolation or even surround yourself with that force field of plausible deniability, keeping healthy boundaries around yourself because this stuff seems to happen to all targets. You know,
Yeah, and the whole thing is that I tried it like 10 years ago too, like in another way, like also with an ex-girlfriend I had, and she was also like coming from another country. So
yeah.
I went to that other country like with the train and the bus and whatever, and it was like poor over there. So I also went there to see how life was over there instead of in my country. So I helped them all with all kinds of things. And I had to notice that every time I went on a vacation, like almost all my life, I got sick, you know, to screw up my
So you
vacation.
think these people were there just messing with you and you didn't even know it?
Yeah, because some cold
Yeah.
or this
No,
or
you're right. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
I went like on how do you call it? I went snowboarding like with that ex-girlfriend too, and like after 3 days I was that sick that I couldn't even do anything anymore.
It's
So
always a sabotage. It's always a
yeah,
sabotage, isn't it?
so and that's the same thing with all happy things I was doing.
Yeah, they don't want you to try anything. They don't want you to even dare to think you can be happy again. That's what they want.
And the most stupid thing ever, it was like how do you call it? It was like in some kind of strip bar, and it was all like fun and drunk and whatever. And suddenly some friend of mine was like saying some weird gay stuff to me. Like I was like, what the fuck are you saying? I'm
So
not
you
for
were getting a direct conversation while you were
yeah
trying to have a relaxing evening. Basically, is
yeah
what you're
yeah.
doing.
He
Yeah,
was like screwing up the evening like that.
yeah. So they always sabotage everything.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow, this is intense. I want you to come back on. We are at the end of the show. Is
Okay.
there anything you'd like to add before we take you off the stage?
Uh, yeah. Well, it's a miracle that I can still laugh or something.
Okay, no, you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the whole thing why they try to hide it because it's that extreme.
Yeah, and but then no one will believe you. And the thing that bothers a lot of targets, and I've talked about this before, that they'll almost bait people around you talking about their problems or complaining, and you're
Hmm.
tempted. You're tempted. Well, you think that's bad, you're gonna, but
Oh,
really, it's bait. It's bait,
the
is
last
what
thing
it is. Go
wanted to
ahead.
add,
Go
I
ahead.
said that before, like all social housing in this city, it's like a setup, and they have like we put that people over there, and next to that we put like a foreigner, and then we put that one over there, and it's like a whole scheme.
Yeah.
And that's also where I grew up, where like at my mother's place, and then I found out like the neighbors were like from the yeah, you don't call it the CIA over here, but a different kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, we get it. We get it.
But,
Am
but
I?
but but those were my neighbors. So when I had like problems over here, I went for a week over there to sleep there, and then I was like, I don't know, microwaved or something. That I got like I don't know, like sweating out of my bed and this and that. And then the neighbor said, "Oh, it's good to know that you're here." And I was like, okay, that sounds creepy or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just thought like, okay, they must have some kind of device in the other side of the room, and yeah, it could have been like yeah, all the time, since I lived
Wow.
there
But
when I
we,
was
we we want you back on, can't
yeah,
you? I mean, I
no
want to hear all these stories, dude. Next
yeah,
time
no
I do a
problem.
live stream, you got to come on.
The
But
whole
we
thing
we
is
have to we have to end it now. Well, what would you tell the targets out there before we take you off the stage?
trust no one.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, dude. Okay,
Yeah,
period.
that's the
I
whole
get it.
thing. I
Yeah,
had to take the advice from Tupac. There's a song that's called like that, or
people earn their trust. They earn it. They earn it.
yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes a long time, doesn't
So I
it?
didn't take anything serious, but now I do. Yeah.
Absolutely. But you're one of the best guests we've ever had on here, and I'm going to take you off the stage and invite you to come in anytime. And
Okay.
for the next live stream, come in because I know you're an avid viewer,
Hmm.
I think the first time we couldn't get you on here, but no, I'm so glad that you came in because your story and your testimony is 100% exactly what not only what I've dealt with, but a lot of targets who are listening. Thank you again, and we're gonna take you
Yeah.
off the stage.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, a wonderful testimony, and I'm glad that I came on tonight, and I'm glad that my throat is feeling a little better. The forced silence of targeted individuals involves things that not only Kensha has talked about, but other people before, where you just wouldn't believe that it would even be possible. the things that targets deal with, whether it is the synchronicities, whether it's the control programming, whether it is the setups and the abuse, the smear campaign, the workplace harassment, the break-ins, the food tampering, all these things, come together in a way that if you say anything, you're just feeding in to the very the mechanism that is designed to discredit you and take you into irreversible damage concerning organized stalking and harassment. It's frightening. It is something that I think needs to be addressed. And like I said before, when people come on here, I don't want their faces, I don't want their names, because that's part of the mechanism. Okay, that you cannot deny or contradict the science around organized harassment. People are discredited. They're tortured. They're isolated, and at that point, they can really do some really nasty things to the target, not only within the community that they're in, but if they get on paper and so on and so forth. Like I've said, with the modern technology that we are dealing with, and some of the things that are being proposed within the government, I mean, it is a bigger threat than it has ever been before. And I'd like to thank Kensha again. This individual is, beyond self-sufficient, educated, very talented, and very well spoken. And I'd like to invite other individuals to come in the live streams. And if you have an idea for a future live stream or a video, put it in the comments. God bless. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.